Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So today we are reading from Srimad Bhagavad-Gita, chapter 2, called The Contents of the Gita Summarized, and it's text 17. Text 17 has a long purport. Lot can be said on this verse. I think that's why there are two speakers today and tomorrow speaking on the same verse. Now text chapter 2, as the title of the chapter says, Contents of the Gita Summarized. So of the 18 chapters in the Bhagavad-Gita, chapter 2 is a summary of the 18 chapters. Chapter 2 has 72 verses. So these 72 verses are the summary of the 700 verses of Bhagavad-Gita. And Bhagavad-Gita, since Bhagavad-Gita is the essence, the summary of all the Vedic scriptures, the Vedas, the Puranas, the Itihas, the Darshans, etc. So Bhagavad-Gita is a summary of all the Vedic literatures, and this chapter is the summary of the Bhagavad-Gita. So that means, obviously this means this chapter is also the essence of all the Vedic literatures, Puranas, Itihas, etc. So very important chapter, and we are on text 17. So we'll recite word to word first in Sanskrit. Avinashi, please. Tu tad vidhi yena sarvam idam tatam vinasham avyayasya na kaschit kartum arhati. Avinashi tu tad vidhi yena sarvam idam tatam vinasham avyajasasya na kashit karatum arhasi. So word to word translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Abhay Charanarvind Bhakti-Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. So, word to word, please repeat after me. Avinashi, imperishable. Tu, but. Tat, that. Vidhi, know it. Yena, by whom? Sarvam, all of the body. Idam, this. Tatam, pervaded. Vinasham, destruction. Avyasya, of the imperishable. Asya, of it. Na kaschit, no one. Kartum, to do. Arhati, is able. Translation: that which pervades the entire body, you should know to be indestructible. No one is able to destroy that imperishable soul. Please repeat after me. That which pervades the entire body, you should know to be indestructible. No one is able to destroy that imperishable soul. So, as I said, it's a long 2-page purport, so please bear, and I'll just read and we'll discuss later. Purport. This verse more clearly explains the real nature of the soul. which is spread all over the body. Anyone can understand what is spread all over the body. It is consciousness. Everyone is conscious of the pains and pleasures of the body in part or as a whole. This spreading of consciousness is limited within one's own body. The pains and pleasures of one body are unknown to another. Therefore, each and every body is the embodiment of an individual soul, and the symptoms of the soul's presence is perceived as individual consciousness. This soul is described as 1/10,000th part of the upper portion of the hair point in size. The Shvetashvatara Upanishad 5.9 confirms this. Balagra shatbhagasya shatadha kalpitasya cha bhago jivha sa viggeha sa chantaya kalpate. When the upper point of a hair is divided into 100 parts, and again each of such parts is further divided into 100 parts, each such part is a measurement of the dimension of the spirit soul. Similarly, the same version is stated. Keshagra shatbhagasya shatamshaha shadarshatmakaha jivaha sukshmar savrupo ayam sankhayatito hi chit kanaha. There are innumerable particles of spiritual atoms which are measured as 1/10,000 of the upper portion of the hair. Therefore, the individual particle of spirit soul is a spiritual atom smaller than the material atoms, and such atoms are innumerable. This very small spiritual spark is the basic principle of the material body, and the influence of such a spiritual spark is spread all over the body as the influence of the active principle of some medicine spreads throughout the body. This current of the spirit soul is felt all over the body as consciousness, and that is the proof of the presence of the soul. Any layman can understand that the material body minus consciousness is a dead body, and this consciousness cannot be revived in the body by any means of the material administration. Therefore, consciousness is not due to any amount of material combination, but to the spirit soul. In the Mundaka Upanishad 3.1.9, the measurement of the atomic spirit soul is further explained. Esho anur atma chetasa viditvayo yasmin pranha panchadha samviveshaha pranashchittam sarvam otam prajanam yasmin vishuddhe vibhavatya esha atma. The soul is atomic in size and can be perceived by perfect intelligence. This atomic soul is floating in the 5 kinds of air: prana, apana, vayana, samana and udana. Is situated within the heart and spreads its influence all over the body of the embodied living entities. When the soul is purified from the contamination of the 5 kinds of material air, its spiritual influence is exhibited. The Hatha Yoga system is meant for controlling the 5 kinds of air encircling the pure soul by different kinds of sitting postures, not for any material profit, but for liberation of the minute soul from the entanglement of the material atmosphere. So the constitution of the atomic soul is admitted in all Vedic literatures, and it is also actually felt in the practical experience of any sane man. Only the insane man can think of this atomic soul as all-pervading Vishnu Tattva. The influence of the atomic soul can be spread all over a particular body. According to the Mundaka Upanishad, this atomic soul is situated in the heart of every living entity. And because the measurement of the atomic soul is beyond the power of appreciation of the material scientists, some of them assert foolishly that there is no soul. The individual atomic soul is definitely there in the heart along with the super soul, and thus all the energies of the bodily movement are emanating from this part of the body. The corpuscles which carry the oxygen from the lungs gather energy from the soul. When the soul passes away from this position, the activity of the blood generating fusion ceases. Medical science accepts the importance of the red corpuscles, but it cannot ascertain that the source of the energy is the soul. Medical science, however, does admit that the heart is a seat of all energies of the body. Such atomic particles of the spirit whole are compared to the sunshine molecules. In the sunshine, there are innumerable radiant molecules. Similarly, the fragmental parts of the Supreme Lord are atomic sparks of the rays of the Supreme Lord, called by the name Prabha, or superior energy. So whether one follows Vedic knowledge or modern science, one cannot deny the existence of the spirit soul in the body. And the science of the soul is explicitly described in the Bhagavad-Gita by the personality of Godhead himself. We can all repeat the prayers. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayham Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeyaham Shri Guruho Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha Namaum Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Paricharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschat Deshatarine He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesh Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastate Tapta Kanchan Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhascha Kripa Sindhube Evacha Patita Nama Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Shri Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. So the text and translation again. Avinashi tu tadviddhi yena sarvamidam tatam vinasham avavisasya na kaschit kartum arhati. That which pervades the entire body you should know to be the indestructible. No one is able to destroy that imperishable soul. So I just mentioned earlier on, this is chapter 2, the summary of all the 18 chapters. And in this chapter 2, Lord Krishna begins his divine instructions to Arjuna. After, in the first chapter, Arjuna gives few reasons for not to fight. And the last reason he gives in text 6 of this chapter, of indecision. The previous reasons for not fighting in mentioned chapter 1 are fearful of sinful reactions, destruction of the family traditions. Anyone else remember others? Compassion, lack of enjoyment, loss of enjoyment, sinful, yes. So the 5 reasons altogether. And this 5th one is beginning of this chapter. So after that, immediately Arjun surrenders. He says, Shishisteham Tum Shadivam Parpanam. He says to Krishna that I am your surrendered disciple, please accept me. And then Lord Krishna starts to begin his divine instructions from text 11 or 10 onwards of this chapter. And immediately Lord Krishna, text 11, he begins. Immediately, Lord Krishna assumes the role of a guru or a teacher. Up to then, he was acting as Arjuna's very close friend, bosom friend. They were cousins. And once Arjuna accepted Krishna as his guru, and Lord Krishna's attitude changed, and he started instructing him. And immediately he starts on the first lesson of spirituality. And the first lesson of spirituality in the Vedic, especially Vedic spirituality, and you don't find this in other religions, not so much, to some aspect, as far as my understanding goes. But the first lesson in Vedas is the first lesson Lord Krishna begins his instructions on. And this first lesson goes until text 29 or so. So in these 20 odd, 18, 19 texts, Lord Krishna explains, and the point which Srila Prabhupada repeats time and time again in his lectures, in his conversations, in his books. There are 2-3 points Prabhupada repeats innumerably. Actually many points, but 2 or 3 main points. One is going back to Godhead. Always repeating, one has to go back to Godhead. The other point he keeps repeating, that you are not the body. One is not the body, but one is the real identity of an individual is of spiritual in nature, not material in nature. One is not the body, which is made of 5 material elements, but essentially it is a spiritual identity, the soul. And this is the first lesson of spirituality, Vedic spirituality, and Lord Krishna also begins from that particular point. And he starts from text 11, basically rebuking or telling Arjuna that he has been speaking very learned words. He gave 5 reasons not to fight. Then he said, I've heard through great authorities. And Arjuna also uses Niti Shastra and Dharma Shastra to have his basis for these reasons not to fight. And immediately, on the first text of his instructions, Krishna says, learn while speaking learned words, Ashochanam Shochastum Pragyavadam Bhashase Gata Suna Gata Shumsha Nanu Shochanti Pandita. You're speaking like learned words, but you don't even know what is to be grieved and what is not to be grieved, and what is worthy to be grieved. Those who are wise lament neither for the dead or the living, because all these reasons Arjuna gave was related to the body. He was thinking that I will commit sinful activities because I will kill my relatives. Naturally, anyone kills anyone will obviously incur sin. And if my relatives, friends and fathers, grandfathers and uncles are not there, who will I enjoy the kingdom with if they all get killed? And a devotee has natural compassion, which Arjuna showed. He doesn't want to kill. And then indecision. After considering all that, he is undecided what to do, what not to do. That's why he surrenders to the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. And immediately Lord Krishna rebukes, oh, you're posing yourself as a great learned person, but you don't even know the basic fact or basic lesson of what is knowledge. Spiritual knowledge. And that spiritual knowledge is what these texts are talking about, the first lesson of spiritual knowledge. And in text 12, we're just recapping. In text 12, Krishna points out the individuality. Na tvaham eva jatu nasam, na tom neme janadipa, na chaiv na bhavishyama sarva vayamatha param. He's highlighting the individuality of himself, of all the kings present, everyone present on the battlefield, and of Arjuna. And he's saying, never there was time when we did not exist, nor you, never will there be time when we will not exist. We will always be there. So, hey Arjuna, what you're talking about, what your basis is, that once the body is killed, everything comes to an end. That is not true. And Lord Krishna will raise, we will see as we go through the chapters, will raise Arjuna's consciousness, which has been deliberately been weakened, or his knowledge has been covered, so Krishna could speak the Bhagavad-Gita. So Arjuna is representing us, or some of us, or the general man, or a woman in the world. And we will see that Lord Krishna will raise Arjuna's consciousness, his ability, his capability, his understanding, and his knowledge from a very low level to the highest level. And that process begins with the instructions, you are not the body. And Prabhupada repeats that many, many times, all the time. And Lord Krishna will speak various concepts which is found in the Vedic literatures, which is Karma Kand, and then Jnana Kand, then Karma Kand, Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, and then bhakti-yoga. So this is a yoga ladder as described in next chapter, chapter 3. So slowly, and in between, Lord Krishna interjects, and he puts in certain statements, which is the highest, to see if Arjuna is understanding whether he is able to come up to the level immediately, rather than go slowly to the highest level. But Arjuna is not ready, seemingly, apparently. Arjuna is not ready. So then Lord Krishna comes back and slowly goes up again to the highest level of bhakti-yoga. But here, the first lesson is, as we know, in the text 13, very famous text, Dehinosmin yatha dehe kumaram yovanam jara tatha dehantar praptir dhirasatranam mohiti. The embodied soul continuously passes from this body, from boyhood to youth to old age. The soul similarly passes into another body at death. A sober person, a dhira person, a learned person, a knowledgeable person, or a spiritual person is not bewildered by such a change, because he knows that an individual who is not ultimately the body. And then text 14, Lord Krishna tells Arjuna to be tolerant. Matra sarpashastu kontya shitashana sukha dukkada agma payano nityams tam statikshva bharata. To be tolerant. And Lord Krishna gives example of hot and summer seasons, hot and cold seasons. And so we tolerate them. We have no option but to tolerate. So tolerance is it's a spiritual quality, it's a quality which one has to be. It's there in all of us, but has to be cultivated, has to be practiced. Abhyasena tu kontya vairagyam cha grihate. So practice has to be there. And then in text 16, it's a very important text. Actually, text 16 is the basis of text 17 and 18. Each text, each shloka, they link up. Each chapter link up, and each shloka link up. So the text 17 is based on 16, 18 is based on 17, like that. So text 17 is based on first part of text 16. Text 18 is based on the second part of text 16. So let's look at text 16 also. Text 16 says, Na asato vidyate bhavo, na bhavo vidyate sataha, Ubhyoropi drashtavantas tava anyas tattva darshibhi. It says, and here in this text, first few texts, Krishna is just giving a general instruction, the difference between the body and the soul. But here he goes bit further, and each time he's going further and further until he goes text 20, nahannete hannemane sharire, and it gives more details. And here, text 16, there those who are seers of the truth have concluded that of the non-existence, na asata vidyate bhavo, non-existent, asata vidyate bhavo. There is no endurance. So there's, for the material body, there's no endurance. That means it's dead. Material body is not active, it's dead. Whereas, na abhavo vidyate sataha. Sata means permanent. Sata means eternal. And he says, and of the eternal, in this means the soul, there's no change. So here's the point. Material body is not permanent, the soul is permanent. So here differentiation is given. So the soul which is permanent, that particular part, na bhavo vidyate sata, is described here in text 17. Avinashi tu tad vidhi yena sarvam idam tatam. Whereas na sato vidyate bhava, first part of text 16, that means the material body is this no endurance. That means it's impermanent, which is text 18. It says, antavate, the material body of the indestructible, immeasurable, and eternal living entity is sure to come to an end. So it's not permanent. Therefore, fight, or descendant of Bharata. So na bhavo vidyate sata is the basis from text 16 of this text 17 now. So you see how our acharyas have explained, how Prabhupada has explained that each text is linking up. So sometimes it's not, although we can read any text from any part of the Bhagavad-Gita to understand, but if you want to really study it, we have to read from the beginning and link, because each chapter is linking up, each text is linking up. And there's so many cross-references from back and forth. That's why it's a very good idea to do Bhakti Shastri, because that's what they teach in Bhakti Shastri. One of the books they teach references, and most of the 3-month course in Bhakti Shastri is based on Bhagavad-Gita. Bhagavad-Gita is the ABC of so-called ABC, which is still very difficult for some of us to understand, as Srila Prabhupada points out, of spiritual knowledge. Now let's come back to text 17 and the purport. And just to go over it again, Prabhupada says this verse explains the real nature of the soul. And the soul, and what is the real nature of the soul? How does one recognize the soul is present in a body? It's through consciousness. That's what Prabhupada is saying in the purport. Also, avinashi tatadvidhi yena sarvam idam tatam. So, Prabhupada says that what is the difference between the dead body and a living body? Consciousness. Living body minus consciousness is a dead body. A dead body, you can pinch, you can strike, will not feel, will not reply, will not retort. Whereas a living body, as soon as you pinch any part of the body, it hurts. If you cut it, it hurts. Because the consciousness is pervaded, it's throughout, it's spread. And this consciousness of what? Consciousness of the soul. And the consciousness of the soul, and the soul is situated in the heart. So is the super soul, is situated in the heart. So from the heart, Prabhupada points out in his long purport that even the modern scientists accept heart to be the most important organ of the body. And from the heart, the red blood cells, they get the energy, the heart pumps the blood throughout the body. And Prabhupada says, it is where is the energy is coming in the heart to pump. There are some figures I forget, the number of times the heart pumps in one's lifetime. If you live for 100, it pumps so many times like that. It's a continuous pumping machine. Where is it getting the energy from? From the soul, from the super soul. Is situated in the heart. And how is it spread? How is the consciousness spread throughout the body? It's through this blood, red blood cells, through the blood. Blood goes to every part of the body, and consciousness, the blood carries the consciousness through every part of the body. That's why sometimes when one gets, when for example an operation is happening, they stop the supply of blood to certain part of the body. The body becomes, you don't feel the consciousness. The blood is stopped. The consciousness gets stopped flowing. So the blood, and the blood is getting its energy from the soul. So, and then Prabhupada says this consciousness, every one of us are conscious. We are conscious of our body, Kshetragya, in the 13th chapter of Bhagavad-Gita. Lord Krishna says, an individual, a Kshetragya. Kshetra is the body, Kshetragya is the knower of the body. And then there's another one, Sarva Kshetragya. So this body is in the field, knower of the field is an individual, this individual soul. But this individual soul, us, we only know our area, which is the body we inhabit. We don't know the pains and pleasures of other body. But Sarva Kshetragya, which is Krishna, he knows. He's a supreme consciousness. He knows the pains and pleasures of all the different bodies which that exist in creation. That is described in chapter 13. And that's why, because the pain, as long as the pains and pleasures are experienced, the soul is present, the consciousness is present. Somebody may say, oh, if that is the case, does that mean the soul, the size of the soul is the size of the body? No. That's why Prabhupada explains the size of the body from Shvetashvatara Upanishad. When the upper part of the tip of the hair, we can't even see properly with our naked eyes, the tip of the hair. And if you divide that into 100 parts and divide that again to 100 parts, or in other words, if you divide the tip of the hair into 10,000 parts, so that 1/10,000 part is the size of the soul. And from that minute, and Prabhupada says in purport later on, material scientists cannot perceive it, cannot measure it. The most powerful microscope which is present is known as the electron microscope. An electron microscope, again I forget the figures, how much it can focus. But even that is unable to, just to give it an idea, electron microscope can focus, the molecules and the atoms are measured as 0.1 nanometer. That means if you divide the 1 meter by 10, that's 0.1 nanometer. So atom is normally measured according to material science as 0.1 nanometer. So electron microscope can focus in 1.1 nanometer and expand it to look like a city. Like you see a map of the city. So that's how powerful an electron microscopic scope is. But even that, the most powerful microscope, cannot see the soul, cannot perceive the soul, because it's anu atma, as described, Esha anuratma chetasa vidavatyo. Mundaka Upanishad, Prabhupada quotes in his purport. And he said, whereas the Supreme Lord is known as Vibhu Atma. And coming back to another quotation, Srila Prabhupada says, Keshagra Shadbhagasa. There's another reference to give the the size of the soul, and it ends as Sankhyaitito hi chit kanaha. It's a kan. It's chit kan. That means it's spiritual in nature. It's not made of material. And there are innumerable spirit souls, millions upon millions. And what is the identity of the spirit soul? Lord Krishna in Bhagavad-Gita, text 7, points out, 15.7, Mameva Vamsho Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. Krishna says this minute spirit soul is my part and parcel. My part and parcel. So does that mean at one time, Krishna just this part and parcel were part of Krishna as his part and parcel, and then it became separate? It's like if I sew this off, an inch of this table, and I take it out, and that inch was once part and parcel of this table, now is separate. Is that what Krishna means? Mamaiva Vamsha Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana, that they're my part and parcel? No. Not. It means, just like those who done biology and chemistry, one knows there are particles, atoms, molecules, electrons, microns, protons, etc. And this table or anything, if you analyze it, we will see these protons, electrons, and neutrinos running, whizzing around. But we cannot see they're separate. We see now they're whole. But individually, in fact, they're separate. So they are part and parcel of this metal. But if you analyze it, they're separate. So similarly, the individual souls, although we are part and parcel of Krishna, but we always been separate. Never there was a time when I did not exist. In text 12, we go back to text 12. Na tvayavham jatu nasam na tvam neme janadipa. Never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all these kings, nor in the future shall any of us cease to be. So we were always there, and Prabhupada in that purport defeats the Mayavad concept, because Mayavad means we were one, became separate, and we become one again. No, that is not the case. Always separate, will always remain separate as an individual, but still remain part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, as the servant Jivere Surupoi Krishnera Nityadas. So Anuratma, and here Prabhupada points out this Anuatma, the Atma is situated within the heart, region of the heart, and is floating in the 5 different types of air which is present in everybody. And these 5 types of air has different functions. That's how the body functions. And Ayurvedic doctors, they treat the imbalance, Kapha, Vata and Vayu. It's 3 elements, Kapha, Pitta and Vayu. 5 types of Vayu in the body. And the soul is floating in that. And the Hatha yogis, the Ashtanga yogis, they meditate or they perform austerities, yam, niyam, asan, pranayam, etc., to control the workings of the body. And what they're controlling is the functions and organs, these 5 types of airs which are floating within the body. They control that through their austerities. By controlling them, they control themselves, the soul. And then at a particular time, they control themselves at a particular time. They can do whatever they like, however they like. They can leave as they like, the body that is. Or while performing, they obtain great siddhis, mystic powers. And then they can use it in any way they like. Positively or negatively. Negatively used, black magic. And positively used is for the service of the Supreme Lord and the devotees. So this consciousness, Prabhupada says, also consciousness of individual body through the soul, spread out through individual body. Similarly, there is super consciousness. We're only hearing about this consciousness of the soul. But how about the consciousness of the super soul? The Supreme Lord Himself. And it's through the consciousness of the Lord, Supreme Personality, Godhead, Shri Krishna, pervading throughout the universe is working. Our consciousness, the energy of the soul in our body, through the energy, the whole body function works. But the universal body function works through the energy of the super soul. The stars, the planets, the earth, the sun, the weather systems, everything is working in perfect manner because of the super consciousness of the Supreme Personality Godhead. And that consciousness, and that's why Prabhupada points it out many times, to know the super consciousness, to know the Supreme Personality Godhead, one must be conscious of oneself. We have to know ourselves first. If you want to know God, let us know ourselves first. Who we are, what we are. And that's why this is the first lesson of spirituality. Who we are, what we are. Unless we understand that, it's difficult. And Prabhupada points out that most people in this world are not on this level. We may say, yes, I'm not the body. That is definitely Gyan. But some of us have to raise ourselves to another level, Vigyan, realized knowledge that I am not the body. At least by reading Prabhupada's books, being in ISKCON, we're fortunate to know that we are something beyond than who we think we actually are. And because of that, Prabhupada says this modern civilization is based on one mistake. On a mistake, he says. And what is the greatest mistake? That everyone thinks they're this body. Everything is based on that premise. I am the body, and based on that body, everything in this world is happening. Whether great scientific discoveries are there, whether there are great facilities being provided, whatever one can see, modern technology, going to the space, improving our living conditions, everything we can analyze is based on this great mistake, great premise that I am this body. There's nothing wrong with all this advancement if utilized or understood in a proper manner, proper way. But to mistake it that is all in all and the basis of all our advancement, technological, medicinal, space advancement, everything is to satisfy the senses, to satisfy the body, because that's it, there's nothing beyond the body. That's the biggest mistake. Prabhupada points it out. And he said that's the greatest mistake this modern civilization has. And we have to, and most people, I would say 99.9% of the population is still on that level. And there's different levels. And most religions, they don't even talk about, or they talk very little about the difference between the body and the soul. And some people say there is no soul. They say there's no soul because so minute. They cannot perceive it. They cannot see it for themselves. And the scientists say the soul, the consciousness is what? Is the transference of electrical signals from different cells in the brain, neurocells. So when they interact, when they communicate with each other, that's what consciousness is. So when the organs stop, the consciousness dies. So that's the modern understanding. Even some so-called religions believe there's no soul. Shunyavadi, the Buddhist, for example. That's why Prabhupada's pranam mantra is Nirvishesh Shunyavadi. Paschatya Desha Tarine. Nirvishesho. So it's very important to us to understand and learn we know, at least theoretically, what is that we know the body. And advancement is how we act on this knowledge. Our action on this knowledge through our experience is what is called realized knowledge and Vigyan. So we have to raise, we have to go towards that. And Prabhupada says this is the point from this text 16 and 17. Krishna is describing in great details, and Prabhupada used to had a very simple yet very effective experiment he used to do. So he did it a few times with at school or college, I don't remember, in America. MIT, was it MIT? Where he did a little experiment to these students, very intelligent students, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, to show what is the difference between soul and a body. So what he did, he asked everyone to raise their finger. I mean, I'm just paraphrasing now. He asked everyone to raise their finger and point out with a finger to the right leg, to the left leg, to right thigh, to left thigh, to the stomach, to the left shoulder, to the right shoulder, to the chest, to the eyes, to the mouth, to the ears, to the forehead, to the head, to the heart. And then he said, point out to yourself. So everyone's going, oh, this is me, this is me. But where? But that's your leg, that's your thigh, that's your arm, that's your head. But where are you? Where is you? So effective, so simple. I don't think any material scientist can come up with simple experiment. Like so effective, and within a minute, Prabhupada says, any sane man can accept the difference between the body and spirit. Only insane people they will not accept. Even the medical science accepts that every 7 years, every single part of your body, every single cell, except maybe the brain cells, some of the brain cells, they get replaced. Every 7 years you have a new body. We all have a new body. So, but yet, we as an individual, we may have matured, we may have got a lot of more experienced, but essentially we're still the same. If one thinks to the earliest memory one has as a child, maybe 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, the earliest childhood memory, and now, whether you're 30, 40, 50, 60, whatever, if you relate back, one will see, yes, I'm still that person who I was as a child. Yes, although I've improved, matured, experienced, but essentially I'm still the same person. Yet, I'm not still the same person because my body has changed. Yet my body is totally changed. If you look at the old photos, you think, is this me? Sometimes you think, is this me? Sometimes one doesn't recognize oneself. How ugly I was, how beautiful I was. So it's very common knowledge if one Prabhupada points it out. Any sane man can tell the difference. Just by observation, just by logic, and just by experience. But no, the scientists don't believe in that. And that's why Prabhupada says, insanity. There's so much insanity in this world. That's why this world is based on a mistake. Everything happened in this world because of the mistake the world is working on. And it's been propagated, supported, advertised by the big business people of the world, all there to make money, whether they're scientists, whether they're business people, because they know how to make money is to satisfy the senses, to look after the body. Whether it's medicine, whether it's whatever, beauty products, whatever it may be. Everything's there to look after the body. Because everyone thinks they are the body. But we know, being in ISKCON, basing our lives on Srila Prabhupada's teachings as as taught by our previous acharyas and Lord Krishna himself. He starts with this first basic lesson of spirituality. Know thyself. Know who you are. And again, then Prabhupada gives more examples to illustrate. Just like the sunshine, the sun and the sunshine, just like the sun spreads its influence throughout the universe through sunshine, and so similarly the soul spreads its influence throughout the body, and the soul is compared to the little molecule, little spark of the sunshine. And many other examples in Vishnu Puran is also there, just like in a dark room, if you light a lamp, slowly the lamp pervades the room and lights things up. So many examples there in the scriptures to show, to highlight. And the Hatha Yoga system, Prabhupada mentions here very interestingly, the Hatha Yoga system. He's not talking about bhakti-yoga here. Normally, in every word, in every sentence or every purport, Prabhupada, whatever topic has been discussed, because Lord Krishna is up to chapter 6, talking about karma kand, karma yoga, jnana yoga, ashtanga yoga, and then last verse of 647, bhakti yoga, and then within karma yoga, sakam karma yoga, like that. But here in this purport, Prabhupada doesn't talk about bhakti yoga. Very interesting. But he talks about hatha yoga. But we know that we're performing bhakti as 28 Vedeshu, Yageshu, Tapasu, Chaiva. Krishna says by just performing bhakti, one's austerities, one is performed, one's learning, studying Vedas throughout one's life, the austerities, the yagyas, the donations one has given, is all included by performing devotional service. So one doesn't separately have to perform Hatha Yoga or Ashtanga Yoga to control the 5 different types of airs, to control the soul. No. Just by performing our sadhana and this bhakti yoga process, everything is automatically, totally controlled. There's so much to say because long purport, that's why tomorrow's speaker, Prabhu, will also continue on this. I can see there's 6 o'clock now. If there is any corrections, any comments, or any discussion points we can have, and if I think of other points I can talk about. Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada is stressing so much how tiny this soul is. So I was just wondering, is that the case just for when it's within the material body? What about when it's actually fully manifest as in the spiritual world? Is it also atomic, or is it kind of normal size, regular size?
Yeah, whatever regular or normal size means. See, here's a question in the sense that this is related to a question where when one develops, the size of the super soul is given in the body, the size of the thumb, and that relation to the size of the body. Not that the super soul present in the ant's body is the size of the thumb, no. Size of the thumb comparatively to the size of the body. But the size of the soul is also given here, atomic. But this is related to the question one may ask: what is the size of the atomic soul when that atomic soul goes back to Godhead? And when one develops the spiritual body, what is the size? Well, I've asked a few devotees on that. Personally, I'm not fully clear on that myself. But one thing's for sure, I can tell you the answers I've got. then I will talk about the size. The answer is God, when the spiritual body develops, the soul right now is encaged in the subtle body, mind, intelligence, and false ego.
It's compressed.
I don't know. I'm not sure it's compressed. I haven't heard of that, but it's in that. And when we, as is atomic supersoul, go back to Godhead or spiritually develop, will the atomic size change or not? I'm not sure. But I've heard. But my understanding is no, it will never change, because otherwise, huh? No, exactly. This and the Vedas, the Upanishads talk about that, the size of the soul, whether it's in the material world or in the spiritual world, the size will always remain same, as the eye 1/10,000th part of the tip of the hair. But how the body of that size will develop, that is a question. When the spiritual body is developed.
But the spiritual body and the soul are the same.
Yes, that is true. But then one can say that spiritual body in relation to Krishna's body. One can also argue, how big is Krishna's body? How big is Mahavishnu? His body. So arguments are there. I mean, I'm just thinking aloud. I'm not giving a clear answer because I'm not sure. I don't have clarity on that myself. I'm just discussing here because what I've heard, and also with the spiritual body, as we progress spiritually, as we advance spiritually, and that spiritual body unfolds or develops, whatever word one may want to use. It develops, and when one goes back to Godhead, it's not that the body is, although the spiritual body is there, there's no difference between the soul and the spiritual body, because one has a spiritual body. What is the size of the soul then? Is it still 1/10,000th part? I don't know. I don't have so much clarity on that. Anyone like to comment on that?
No, I have a question.
Question. One here. Oh, very well.
Krishna says that in this Paramatma aspect, he is present everybody, every living or even non-living entity.
Yes.
That means in our body there are two entities. One is our soul, that means, and a super soul. That means both. That is separately present.
Yes.
And when at time of transmigration from one body to another body, that means our body in a subtle way, that mind, intelligence, false goes along with the super soul move on to the next body.
Not super soul. The soul. The super soul accompanies us in one sense. Just before that, there's one more thing I just wanted to. If you go a bit more deeper on that first point, in the one's body there's a soul, there's individuals, and then there's super soul. And what is the body made up of? Cells. And each cell, although is deriving its energy, one can say, from the soul or the super soul, but each cell, if we go more deeper, is an entity itself. And within that entity there's super soul. Because this is dead matter. If look at here in this, there's no soul. But it has electrons, protons, neutrons, which are alive.
And which are moving.
Which are moving. And what is moving that? Because the super soul is energy, whether he's personally present or his energy is present, through his energy it's alive. Actually, in one sense, nothing in the material world is dead. Everything is alive. Because through the presence of the energy of the super soul is prevalent everywhere. Because in this, the soul isn't there, so we call it dead matter. In actuality, in that way, there's nothing material. There's no such thing as material world. Everything is a spiritual world, because everything is energy of the Supreme Lord. You understand? So similarly, in this so-called dead matter, it's also living matter, because supersoul is present there. So now the question is, when transmigration takes place, along with the soul, does the super soul go? Yeah, otherwise it says the super soul accompanies the soul to different bodies, yes. Yeah. Yes, sure.
That is the place of both soul and the super soul.
Is the heart.
Are the heart.
That's right.
I mean, there's a physical proximity between two, like this is.
Yeah, we're very close. And Prabhupada, I think 220 in the purport, he explains, he gives quotes. Yeah. From Kathopanishad, he says, Anor Aniyana Mahato Mahinam, that was. He says, both the super soul, Paramatma, and the atomic soul, Jivatma, are situated on the same tree of the body, within the same heart of the living being. So they are situated in the same. How much proximity? Whatever it is, one thing's for sure, the soul is not realizing the super soul is there, and is not looking at this the super soul, or is ignoring it, and but as a text says, it's ignoring the super soul. But it's there. Super soul is there, always with us. Our closest friend, our closest companion, is with us all the time, but we don't realize. There's one at the back.
Thank you for a lecture. I cannot see you, but I hear you. I have
Cannot
a question
understand.
about medical term.
Yeah.
It's about clinical death.
Yes.
How can we explain that?
How can we explain that? Now I knew this would lead into this area. See, how we define clinical death may be different to how we define, or is different to how we define the death from the spiritual point of view. I'm not a medical man. Clinical death, somebody correct me, which I understand means when the functions of the body has stopped working, right? No, even though sometimes the activity of the heart, of the brain may be going on, because after one dies, the activity of the brain goes on for a certain time. That's why, and that's a medical accepted fact. And there's certain organs that still function after so-called death. The electrical energy between neurons are still there. It takes a little while for them to completely die out. Why? Just like the fan, if you press the switch, the button off, the fan still goes around. Similarly, when the death takes place, that energy is still in the body, which the energy is coming from the soul. So until the electrical impulses die out, the body is never completely dies. Although it starts to, what's that biological term? It starts to decompose, but there's another word for it, I forget. Deteriorate, yes, but there's a biological word I'm looking for. Anyway, so it deteriorate or decompose, even though there are some organs continue to function. Now, clinical death. My understanding of clinical death is when functions stop, the heart, the brain, they don't respond. Although you can still pump the heart through artificial means, but that compared to the clinical death as accepted by the scriptures is when the soul leaves the body. How do we know when the soul leaves the body? When the body becomes unresponsive, no breathing takes place, no response takes place of the body, but no sense of touch is there, no breath, no breathing takes place. Those are general basic symptoms. No pulse is there in the body. That's what Ayurvedic doctors do, and even modern doctors do. That's what death really ultimately is, and clinical death means that. So Mataji, what was your question in terms of how do you explain clinical death, or was there other part to that?
No, because the patients usually they can see the body.
That is different thing. That is not clinical death. That is outer body experience. Outer body experience happens when one is still alive. All the functions, body functions are still there, but the soul actually leaves the body temporarily. The body is still functioning. It's not that immediately. Okay, I trying to get your point is that if the soul leaves the body, that means it is death, right? But as I said, there is a time period. There is a time period when the soul can come back to the body. That's why in the Vedic tradition, the body is burnt immediately. So the attachment of the soul is no longer is there and to come back to the body. There are cases, we read in the scriptures, there are, just like Adi Shankaracharya, for example. These yogis, they can leave the body and yet and then come back to the body and still maintain the body as working. There's a very famous story with Adi Shankaracharya. He wanted to experience something because so he left his body and he's told his students, disciple, to take care of the body. No one touches it. So he went to another body. He occupied a dead man's body. It was a king's body who had just died. And he entered that body and the body came alive. And then with that body, he experienced what he wanted to experience. And after experiencing that thing, he came back, entered his own body. So there is a certain period by which one can re-enter one's body. So what you're talking about is the outer body experience when the soul temporarily leaves. And it happens, especially the documented evidences in the modern medical science when an operation is taking place or something is happening when one leaves the body and comes back. So that is an accepted fact. It happens both in medical terms and also from a yoga practice. That's why the yogis can do that. Yogis who have attained mystic siddhis, they're able to do that. It's very much possible. But there's a time limit until the body starts totally gone. Then you can't do that after that. Yes, Prabhu, you had a question.
On the point Prabhu was making, the soul when we go, is size and other thing they were speaking. But where Prabhupada says that we take the same sarup of the Krishna when we are there in the spiritual world.
Same Sarupa Krishna, no.
Yes.
Where this five.
Same four-handed sarup we all have when we have.
Oh, okay. Five types. If you go to Vaikuntha, yes.
Yeah.
5 types of liberation: Shalokya, Sarshti, Samipya, Sarupya, or Sahijya. So, if one attains the same form as the Supreme Lord, that's Sarupya. But one can still recognize who is the Supreme Lord and one who's not the Supreme Lord. Lord wears the Kastuba Jam, Vajanti Mala, etc. They know, just like a calf can recognize the mother in hundreds, thousands of cows, all look the same. They know who is the Supreme Lord and who's not.
Right. One more point
Yeah.
is that Lord is saying in the purport to Arjuna, never the time you exit, I exit.
Yeah.
In future also will be exiting.
Yes.
Now in future also maybe Arjuna and Krishna is present somewhere.
They are present now. These leelas are going on now, even right this moment. Krishna is reciting Bhagavad-Gita to Arjuna in some other part of the universe, some other planet. That is going on. These are eternal pastimes. And somewhere in some loka, Krishna's about to having a fight with Bhishma Dev. In another loka, the war is just starting. Another place, Krishna's just beginning his instructions. All his pastimes are eternal. They're happening different parts and different places.
So each pastime is telling Arjuna that I remember but you cannot remember.
Yes.
So in any other planet, the Arjuna he never remembers what's happening, but Krishna he remembers everything.
As Arjuna and us, we are minute individual souls. We'll never remember our past lives, whichever planet we are on, as long as we are in the material world. But Krishna is the Supreme Lord, He remembers everything, all the time. All that has happened in the past eternally, all that will happen in the future eternally, He remembers.
He remembers and he forget. That is the power to remember and the power to forget. To forget also.
Yeah. If Krishna wants us to remember our past lives, we can. There are cases where people do remember their past lives. But not many, but maybe previous life. But Krishna remembers everything.
Just like you said that every 7 years the cells are changing.
Yes.
So we remember as 5 years old, we are there, the cells were different, we cannot mediate, but we know what we are doing at the 5 years. Some
Yeah.
of the things we remember, some of
But that is within the same body,
yeah.
within same area. But what we don't remember is what's before birth or what's after death. But while we're existing, then there is transformation of the body takes place. That we remember. That's a different criteria. That's a different scenario.
And we see how the cells are changing also when we are 20 years, 30
Yes.
years, 50 years.
Yeah.
All the differences we can see of the body and the activities also.
Absolutely.
Find the difference.
Absolutely. And Prabhupada says any sane man can understand that. Only an insane person will refuse to accept the differences, the observations. Every 10 years, after 20 years, that's what people say, one's strength changes, one's body change, and one's, physical appearance changes. It's changing. But we remain the same. You ask anyone who's old, how do you feel? Prabhupada points it out. I feel young at heart. One ultimately never feels old. Because the soul is there. Soul never feels old.
Thank you.
Prabhu.
The relation of soul to Krishna, of servant and God. What is the relation of one soul to other soul?
The relation of one soul to another soul, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, we are part of family, we are brothers, we are sisters, we are here to help each other, to serve Krishna. And that's what ultimately is.
Is it time for a question?
Yes, sure.
Particularly the spiritual word means the goal of Vrindavan Dham.
Spiritual world means Vaikuntha
No,
Dham.
I'm going.
Yeah.
In that, is there a sort of the spiritual bodies they have that human form, but a generic like a male form or a female form?
Yes.
Yeah, and the cows.
What we see on this planet Earth, as Prabhupada points out, is a reflection of the spiritual world. Because the form exists in the spiritual world, it exists in the material world. Because the cows are there in the spiritual world, they're here. Because we have human form, because Krishna has a human form. So everything is there in the spiritual world which exists here. And here is a reflection of that, what's existing already. So it's not that when you go back to the spiritual world, all you see is, as sometimes depicted in Indian films, cloud, and nothing else. You don't see any houses, you don't see any cows. No. The spiritual world means everything which we see here.
Children, the adults.
Absolutely. It's a community. It's a society of Krishna and his... absolutely. That's what the spiritual world is. Okay. Thank you very much. Srimad Bhagavad-Gita ki jai, Shri Krishna Balaram ki jai, Radha Shyam Sundar Lalita Vishaka Devi ki jai, Shri Gaur Nitai ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanandi.